In the quiet but proud village of Umudike, strength was more than pride, it was identity. The men of Umudike believed that a man's worth was measured by the power in his arms and the scars on his knuckles. But among them lived a woman who challenged every belief they held. Her name was Nneka, the daughter of a blacksmith, and her spirit burned hotter than her father's forge. While other girls of Umudike fetched water from the stream or pounded yam beside their mothers, Nneka lingered near the wrestling ground, pretending to sweep or collect firewood. Her eyes, sharp and unblinking, studied every move of the men, the way they locked arms, the way they fell, the way they rose again. When the moon rose and the village went quiet, she practiced alone behind her father's hut, mimicking the moves in secret, her feet digging into the dust as though it were her opponent. Her father often sighed and said, "Nneka, a woman's hands are meant for peace, not battle." But she would smile and reply, "Then let me fight for my peace." Soon, whispers filled Umudike like wine through dry leaves. "Who will marry a woman who wrestles like a man?" they mocked. "She trains when she should be cooking," others laughed. But Nneka didn't care for laughter or marriage talk. She wanted respect, the kind that comes not from beauty or birthright, but from courage. When boys mocked her, she challenged them. When they refused, she chuckled softly and said, "Your mouth fights louder than your body." And though they laughed at her behind her back, they stepped aside when she walked past. In Umudike, where pride was food and strength was law, Nneka became a story whispered by firelight not for her face, but for her fearlessness. They had never seen a woman like her before. And soon, she would give them a reason to never forget her name. Men began to test her strength, one after another. Some came with confidence, others with secret fear, but all left the ground bruised and breathless. The wrestling field, once filled with men's laughter, now echoed with the sound of a woman's victory. Her father warned her, "Nneka, strength brings enemies faster than friends." But she only nodded, replying softly, "Then let them come." And they came. The young men of Umudike started avoiding the wrestling ground altogether. At night, they whispered to one another, saying, "A curse must follow that girl. No ordinary woman can fight like that." Yet deep down, they all knew it wasn't a curse, it was courage. One day, the village elders called a meeting. The oldest among them, Chief Umudike, said, "A woman who fights like a man disturbs the order of our ancestors. This cannot continue." Still, curiosity burned brighter than tradition. The next moon, during the annual wrestling festival, a challenge was announced. Any man who defeats Nneka will earn the title of Umudike's strongest, and her hand in marriage. The crowd roared. Men beat their chests. Women gasped. But Nneka? She stood silently, her eyes calm, her body steady. When someone asked if she would accept, she simply said, "I have fought for my respect. If it takes one more match to keep it, then let the ground bear witness." That night, as drums echoed across Umudike, even the moon seemed to pause, waiting to see what would happen when courage met pride. The wrestling field in Umudike had never seen a crowd so large. From nearby villages they came traders, farmers, hunters, all eager to witness the woman who dared to fight men and win. The drummers began, steady and deep, shaking the ground with each beat. In the middle of the ring stood Nneka, her wrapper tied tight around her waist, beads glistening with sweat, her face calm but alert. One by one, the men stepped forward. The first challenger, Udo the fisherman, rushed at her with pride. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and certain he'd end this nonsense. But with one sidestep and a sweep of her leg, Nneka sent him rolling into the dust. The crowd gasped. Some cheered. Others hissed. The second man was Obinna the hunter, known for his quickness. He lunged. She ducked. His foot slipped. Before anyone could blink, he too was on his back, staring up at the sun like it owed him an explanation. By the fourth challenger, the drummers slowed, watching in awe. By the seventh, even the chief leaned forward, his jaw tight. No man in Umudike could touch her. When the last challenger fell, Nneka raised her hands not in pride, but in peace. She didn't laugh, didn't boast. She simply said, "I do not fight to shame men. I fight to remind them strength does not choose a body." But the crowd was divided. Some shouted her name in praise. Others murmured darkly. That night, the village square was heavy with whispers. Some said she was blessed by the gods. Others said she was possessed by them. The next morning, something strange awaited Nneka, a challenge not from a man, but from fate itself. By morning, the drums were silent in Umudike. Smoke rose from cooking fires, and life returned to normal, or so it seemed. Nneka stepped out to fetch water, her body still sore from the fights, yet her spirit steady. As she reached the stream, she noticed the other women turning away. Some refused to draw water until she left. Even the men who had once cheered her victories now looked at her with unease. One by one, her friends disappeared, not out of hate, but out of fear. That evening, the village council sent for her. She entered the square, and the elders sat beneath the old iroko tree, facing the grave. Elder Okafor spoke. "Nneka, you have brought glory to Umudike, but also confusion. The gods made man and woman for balance, not for battle. Tell us, what do you seek?" Her voice was calm. "I seek to prove that courage has no gender." The crowd murmured. The elder nodded slowly, then said, "Courage, yes, but peace is greater. Show us that, and the village will follow you." That night, Nneka sat alone by the fire. The moon hung low, and for the first time, her hands trembled. She had fought every man and won, but how does one fight the judgment of a whole village? In that silence, she realized strength wasn't just in her fists. It was in her heart, her patience, her wisdom. The real fight was only beginning. Days turned into weeks, and Nneka kept to herself. She no longer fought, not because she was afraid, but because she had nothing left to prove. One afternoon, a shout came from the village square. A fire had caught the roof of the community barn. Children were trapped inside. Men ran in circles, shouting orders, afraid the flames would spread. Without a word, Nneka dropped her water pot and ran straight into the smoke. The crowd gasped. They had seen her fight men, but this was different. She wrapped her wrapper around her face, broke the barn door with a wooden beam. And one by one, carried the children out, coughing and gasping for air. The last child clung to her neck as the roof finally caved behind her. When she stumbled back into the open, covered in ash, the entire village went silent. Elder Okafor walked to her slowly and placed his hand on her shoulder. "You have fought men," he said, "but today, you fought fear itself." That night, under the same old iroko tree where she once stood accused, the people of Umudike gathered. The women sang her name. The men bowed their heads in respect. From that day, they no longer called her a woman who fought like a man. They called her Nneka the Brave. And so the village learned. Strength is not only found in fists or muscles, but in courage that acts when others hesitate. Umudike never forgot Nneka's courage. Her story became a lesson whispered to every child. That true strength isn't measured by how many fights you win, but by what you're willing to stand up for when it matters most. Tell me, if you were in Nneka's place, would you keep fighting for respect, or walk away from a world that misunderstands you? If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in courage. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African stories, where strength, pride, and spirit shape the people we become.